Hi, it's iRacing commentator David Haynes. In 2019, I'm excited to be bringing coverage of the Champ Car Sim Series, the sim racing division of the Champ Car Endurance Series. Contested across 15 championship rounds using the 2015 Mazda MX-5, the winners will receive a free entry into a RiL Champ Car Endurance Series race in the 2020 season. Each points round will be broadcast live by HJBC. Head to forum.champcar.org for full information and schedule. Sign-ups are open, so get registered now. Best of luck, and I'll see you at the track.
Shut up and sit down.
Hello there, and welcome to HJBC. Welcome to the final round, season 26 of the Reddit iRacing League. Interesting combination we have here tonight. The slightly older NASCAR Chevrolet SS Cup car around the Nordshleife, so lots of horsepower, not a lot of grip, around a circuit that doesn't need a lot of horsepower and typically needs a lot of grip. So this will be very, very interesting. 50-minute race ahead of us. Qualifying has been mostly a run and done, and Alex Albert on pole position right now. Mike Henry Jr. got second place and Giovanni Romano got third, but a huge variation in the lap times because, of course, quite difficult to set a clean lap and a competitive lap around here in this car, especially because you'd need to do a clean out lap and then a full clean lap to finish that up. So we'll maybe have a little bit of a replay of some of the drivers who completed the lap, because we're rolling on towards the end of the qualifying session as we head towards that race. A couple of friends in our YouTube chat here. We've got one to support Nate Franklin, got Evan Merrill in there, and if there's any Babs Nation tuning in, let us know. Would love to hear from you. This is such a Babs Nation kind of combination of car and circuit, I think. Replay up on your screen right now is the last lap that was set by Justin Hall, one of the last drivers to come across the line and set a lap time. It put him 8th, just 7 minutes at 9.5 seconds. Zach Price was actually the last driver across the line to set a time in the qualifying session, going 7 minutes 34. So a lot of variation top to the bottom of the field, and about half the grid without a qualifying time. But lots of fast repairs available to the drivers in this round, so we'll see a lot of cars still running at the end, but we might see quite a lot ducking onto the pit lane. Qualifying is over, and we move towards the race session. Nate Gang on force in our YouTube chat. That's a surprise, but a welcome one to be sure. So the car's lining up for our rolling start behind the Porsche safety car, the most sensible car out on the track there right now, because lined up behind it is all of these Chevy NASCAR stock cars. And this will be an interesting race. It's a tough car to drive by itself, but in a pack or trying to pass someone around here will be difficult. I think we might be waiting for a mistake or an opportunity from the driver in front. If you can set up a good run somewhere, actually use the substantial horsepower that these cars have, a pass might be possible, but it might take two to tango. So we'll run down that starting grid. Alex Albert on pole. Alongside him is going to be Mike Henry Jr. Then Giovanni Romano, I believe your points leader heading into this final round, so might be looking for a good result there. Hunter Reeve qualified 4th, as far as I can tell, and Nate Franklin in 5th. 6th went Alexander Bueller, and plenty of interesting liveries out there as well, by the way. Dylan Blanton in 7th, Justin Hall got 8th, Cody Fisher had 9th, Shane Cameron in 10th, and Zach Price in 11th, the last of the qualifying times. And then I'm not sure quite what decides the gridding from there on backwards. I don't think it's iRating. It might just have been the time that the drivers joined the session, or looks like it could be gridding by iRating. Yeah. So then you've got Ryan Verhulst, Andrew Fawcett, Thomas Ellison, Antonio Alvarez in my favorite livery, Godoge, John Patrick, JP in 16th there I'm seeing, then Coffard, Kyle Smith, Chris Flamian, Jack Mace, who I saw from earlier, Justin Lemons, David Adamczyk, and Evan Merrill might take the start. So 23 potential drivers for this curious but hopefully entertaining combination. And they get rolling behind that pace car right now on the backstretch on the Dortinger where we definitely expect to see some big top speeds from this car. Lots of horsepower means that that long straight becomes a little bit shorter as they power on down it. Rolling away from the grid now are all of our drivers. I'm looking up and down the grid at some of the liveries, and Alex Albert with an interesting, mainly black, white text kind of tribute livery there in the huge ass style. What else is there down the grid? Looks interesting. Gotta love the Nate Franklin in the DuPont livery. That's a classic on a NASCAR stock car. Plenty of other interesting ones. Big fan of Zach Price's Corn Hub. He looks like he's Club Midwest. It's obviously a man who knows his way around some corn. Green flag waves, and Alex Albert will lead the pack away, and clean start from him up front so far as he dives into turn one, and behind him, see a bold move there. Who's that trying to make up some spots down the inside? Alexander Bueller, I saw, taking a dive into turn one. In the background, most everyone making it cleanly through at least turn one. Andrew Fawcett leaving the pit lane, so it might have been a pit lane start from him, and you know what? That's not the stupidest idea I've ever seen. Give yourself a little bit of breathing space around here. So off the start, big movers. Alexander Bueller up one spot to the detriment of Nate Franklin. Cody Fisher grabbed one spot away from Justin Hall. Antonio Alvarez up 3 and Coffard up 4. So I think Ryan Verhulst and Andrew Fawcett opting for the pit lane start strategy. Oh, Giovanni Romano is hard into the wall, and someone else along there with him. The first time through the Flugplatz, always difficult. Just about everyone taking across the grass there. A lot of damage for Giovanni Romano. I'm going to take a look at what happened to him there. Has he done it all by himself? Indeed, he has. He's just come up over through Flugplatz. Big air, car bounces, unsettles. He hasn't had it slowed down enough and lost control, and he's collected... someone who was there, Hunter Reeve, he's collected with him, unfortunately, there. So tough start for those two guys. I think they've kept it rolling for the most part, and they'll obviously use their plentiful fast repairs. Alexander Bueller going for a bit of a spin, a bit of a tumble himself as well. He's jumping down the timing screen after a very good start. Bit too much exuberance on the opening lap. Plenty of drivers coming unstuck, and that's not a huge surprise if we're honest with ourselves. Taking a look now at John Patrick, who's also run into trouble, and the first of our drivers to use a tow to get back to pit lane. His issue has been down through the Fuchsrohr. He's made a bit of contact with the car in front, and then trying to go around Zach Price. He hits the stricken car of Bueller, and that takes the bodywork off all of the front of John Patrick, and I think the motor blown there as well. He wasn't game to limp that thing around the remaining 3/4 of the lap. So 7th place man Dylan Blanton, good run from him so far. Sorry, I should say 4th place. Started in 7th, now running up in 4th. Taking benefit from some of the unfortunate incidents that have befell his competitors. So our top 5 right now, Alexander Albert and Mike Henry Jr. have jumped away cleanly from their front row of the grid. And then Nate Franklin, Dylan Blanton, Cody Fisher in 5th. Tom Ellison's just taken a spot away from Shane Cameron for 7th place. That Blanton's following in the wheel tracks of Nate Franklin at a safe distance, but hopefully looking to get a good run, maybe onto the Dotting Ahua. That would be the safest place to make a pass in these cars. Get a good run there, follow in the draft, make a move. Antonio Alvarez and Alex Coffard racing pretty closely over 9th and 10th place. Coffard taking a look at the Colombian, and they're almost going to go side by side through here. And Coffard backs his nose out of it, but he's looking, sniffing around for an opportunity. Justin Hall slow on the outside of the corner there. Don't see a whole lot of damage on the car. He carries on and drops back into 10th. Now through the carousel, Coffard's going to try and go around the high line. Alvarez and Hall in the groove, and I think it mainly works out for Antonio. Justin Hall close up a bit through that line as well. These guys have now caught up to the back of Shane Cameron, who might be a little bit of an obstacle, bit of a 4-car battle here, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. And Coffard again looking around some alternative lines, trying to get his nose down the inside of Antonio. Not working out this time. And Cameron, a little bit of the cork in the bottle at this moment. But interesting to see when these 4 get further around the circuit and to the Dotting Ahua. They're working through that was... I've forgotten all of the names of the circuit, but they're heading down then towards some of the Flansgartens and through Bruntian's one of the ones coming up for them just here. Cameron's found a little bit more confidence underneath himself there. He's pulled out a couple more car lengths on Antonio, and then this guy's not really game to race right under the rear spoiler of the car in front in case they come unstuck and you don't want to get collected in someone else's incident. So just giving a respectful amount of space the first time around on the circuit. Vipperman was the corner name I was trying to think of earlier. I was thinking of Radio Vipperman and the guys who always camp for that area of the VLN and the Nürburgring 24-hour races. I saw Alex Coffard get a little bit too much curb, and of course the curbs are very, very tall around some of these sections of the circuit. They can really unsettle your car, cause you to come unstuck. Heading towards the Kleines Carousel, and Justin Hall off the circuit. Don't think he got into the wall, but these guys like Antonio are now looking for ways to try and get around Shane Cameron, but Antonio goes high through the carousel, has to do the walk of shame around the high side of the Kleines Carousel. That gives a position to Alex Coffard, who's now coming through Galgenkopf to try and set up a run on Shane Cameron, but all of the curb on the inside there for Alex Coffard hurts his run down this long straight. Fixed setup here, so everyone's running the same final drive and the same downforce. This is going to give Antonio an option to have a look at Alex Coffard, a recently inducted Florida man. So side by side they go. Coffard puts 2 wheels in the dirt, maybe has to get out of the throttle, and through does go. Antonio Alvarez gets that spot back that he lost through the Kleines Carousel. It's a great bit of racing that these guys are having here in the middle, and they're just starting to catch Cody Fisher, who I think lost a position to Tom Ellison not too long ago. So Fisher qualified reasonably well, got a clean lap in, and that ability to set a clean lap will surely pay dividends later on. But right now, the guys behind him a little bit more aggressive. Shane Cameron now riding up underneath his rear spoiler. Bit of a cork in the bottle. Fisher did not get the power down well off turn 1 of the Nürburgring Nordschleife Industry Fahrten. And he's whatever kind of Bud livery he's running there, a lot of white and red on the hood at least. So a couple of cars in the pit lane, or probably on the tow hook right now, like Jack Mace, Giovanni Romano, Hunter Reeve, Alexander Bueller, and John Patrick. I think Romano's just come into the pit lane to take the first of his fast repairs. That'll put him higher up than the 4 other drivers who've had to use the tow truck, which is not as quick as driving around here. And typically a damaged car, you can limp back quicker than that. So Dylan Blanton also having some issues. Don't have my eye on quite what's happened for him there in the 26 car. So out of 4th place, that thing, I think, has had to... It's been upside down, so he's had to take it on the tow hook. Again, another victim of the Flugplatz coming up, approaching at quite high speed. He's come over the crest too hard. Thomas Ellison also had an issue out of one of the higher positions in the number 27 car. We'll have a look at what happened for him. Again, another one of those crests are very, very difficult to keep the car stable over. That's towards Schwedenkreuz and then down and towards Arenberg on the crest towards Schwedenkreuz. Just a little bit too much speed, a bit too much steering input over the crest. Car's gotten loose and it's very, very difficult to correct those. And that sent him into the barriers as well. He's got the car pointing the right way again in his little mermaid livery. And nicer than to put a picture of him on the hood as well, although his ginger hair isn't quite that long. So he gets the car going again, but he has made some contact with the barriers. The road course configuration on these things, if your suspension's a little bit out, you can probably still get away with it because it's all about manhandling this unwieldy brute around the circuit, even when all your wheels are pointing the right way. You can get away with the steering not being quite right, I think. So he's gathered it back up into 6th place. Cody Fisher up ahead has encountered some issues as well, and I think that car's on the tow hook, is it? Might be. Indeed, it has. He's parked it or something. So some issues of some kind for Cody Fisher. So our top 5, from how I see it, now looks like Alex Albert, Mike Henry Jr., Nate Franklin, Antonio Alvarez, and Tom Ellison. Antonio, one of them big movers. So the next move we're looking for is Tom Ellison and Alex Coffard. Coffard's been moving up the order, up 11 spots, and we know there's now a little bit of damage on the car for Tom Ellison. That's, pardon me, it's my early morning coffee gets to my digestive system and causes some burps. Tom Ellison might have to defend from Coffard, who's moved up the order pretty aggressively, running pretty racy. I've got Cody Fisher in front of them, so Alvarez is going to sneak away a little bit if Ellison and Coffard can't get through. Bit of damage on the rear of the car for Alex Coffard as well, but I'm not sure what you need the bumper bar for. Fisher off wide through Mutt Curve, through the Bravery Curve. He's been a bit too brave, pushed out wide, and that corner just keeps going. If you're a bit understeery, you push out a little bit wide. So easy to find the grass and then find the barrier. So that's going to cost Cody Fisher some spots and a little bit of damage. He might come in at the end of this lap and get one of those fast repairs done, swap into a spare car, get going again. Approaching the carousel. What an exciting part of the racetrack. This time, Alex Coffard does use the banking, try to hook it in, but he's not as quick through there as Tom Ellison was, and Ellison was quicker than Alvarez, so the 3 of them stay together as our closest battle, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Alvarez was nearly going to sneak away, but Ellison's gained a bit of ground on him that time, and gaining a little bit more confidence, I think, with the car, the circuit, and also whatever damage he picked up earlier. He's learning to drive around it, I think, a little bit. So update for the Nate gang. He's running in 3rd, 24 seconds off the lead, but 12 seconds ahead of the battle pack that we're just looking at. So running smoothly in 3rd for him right now. And I do believe we expect a pit stop out of everyone who has a clean race. Tom Ellison towards the rear spoiler of Antonio now. Antonio maybe just not quite as confident through the tighter and twistier bits of the sort of second half of the circuit, sort of the way from carousel to about Galgenkopf. It's really up and down Dale and lots of unsighted apexes, and Tom's driven a lap or 2 of this circuit, but so have plenty of the other guys racing tonight. So we'll see. The ebb and flow of where the different drivers are confident is interesting to see. Some drivers get away on one part of the lap and then get caught later on. Meanwhile, Alex Hoffard, following behind the two of them, is eating up every single curb, and that's sending his car into the air and not helping him put the power down at all. He can see the two guys in front, but he's not riding up right underneath them. Tonio runs wide on the entrance towards Schwalbenschwanz. Tom Ellison not brave enough to stick his nose down the inside anywhere here. I think, again, Tonio off through the center of the Clinus carousel, loses 2 spots this time. Ellison through, Coffard through. That's been a bogey corner 2 laps in a row for our favorite Colombian. Now Coffard puts 2 wheels on the grass on the way through Galgenkopf. So this might let Tom Ellison streak away clear a little bit down the Dottinger Hohe. He gets the best exit, I think, to hold on to 4th place. Tonio picks it up. And our first clean flying lap is set up the front by Alex Albert, a 6 minutes 52. That's a pretty quick lap indeed. So he comes across the line to set the fastest lap of the race because it's the first clean lap of the race. Take back what I said. Coffard has a huge run in the draft of Thomas Ellison heading down towards Tiergarten, but not close enough. He closed up lots of car lengths in the slipstream though. It's full throttle for quite a while there, and I guess if you just get in the toe of the car in front, you'll gain something. I'm sure Antonio gained behind a bit as well. So another lap completed just about for these guys as they come through the final corner. 4th, 5th, and 6th. Fantastic little battle going on. I'm seeing that the sun has just come out on this section of the circuit at least, so the track temperatures might rise a little bit. We'll see if that and a hotter track makes it a bit more difficult for these guys. Bit of a slide for Coffard means Antonio Alvarez is going to close him up once again. These 3 guys, pretty similar pace and racing really well, giving each other just enough room, but not afraid to get closer when they think they have an opportunity to pass. Interesting combination. A tough circuit to drive, and these tough cars to drive, giving us a little bit of interesting racing as well. Another battle I'm looking at, 9th and 10th, Kyle Smith, Christopher Flamion, quite a bit of damage on the car for Christopher Flamion, but he's following along behind Kyle Smith and keeping up with him. So I'm kind of surprised that Christopher Flamion hasn't come in and gotten that fixed, but many people said that about his mustache and beard, and it took him a while to get that fixed as well. Another battle out there is Cody Fisher and Justin Hall for 7th and 8th place. And Justin Hall has already had some dramas, so he's giving plenty of room and just following Cody Fisher around a couple car lengths back at the places where he doesn't think he's going to be able to get a pass done, like through Adenauer Forst here. He takes a much later apex there, which you hope would let him get the power down sooner. Looked like a tidier line, but he doesn't close up much. He's just a little bit more ginger, putting the throttle on. And fair enough, that'll keep his car pointing the right way, at least for the moment. John Patrick and David Adamczyk going down the Dottinger Hohe right now. Basically, our last cars running in 17th and 18th, as Shane Cameron, I think, is about ready to leave the pit lane. And David Adamczyk is basically limping that thing back home. His top speed is missing very severely, and the car is crabbing hard as well. He was nearly 20 miles an hour slower down the straight there than John Patrick, who slid on by and gained at least one more position, recovering from the tow time that JP had to take earlier in the race. Will not be surprised to see David Adamczyk head on to the pit lane for what would be the second time. And he has struggled getting that thing to turn right and getting it into the narrow pit entry, getting all of those panels pointing the right way. And hey, maybe even a new set of tires, you never know. Be probably a priority for David Adamczyk. Get that car fixed, get it back out. Because you've seen from John Patrick that if you can get your car fixed and get back out, you can gain some more positions, because it will not be the end of incidents for some of your competitors. Clean run from the end from here. would be good. Someone else leaving the pit lane in front of David Adamczyk. Who is that? That's John Patrick. He also jumped into the lane. I missed that. So he's taken on a 15-second stop, which I imagine might be just a splash of fuel and a tire change there as well. Over a 50-minute race here, a new set of tires could definitely be worth something. So if you came into the lane and you had the time to spare, really wouldn't take you too long to put on a new set of boots, and that could help you all the way around the lap here. You don't want to come unstuck through some of the crests and tighter corners around here like we've seen some do. I would caution against taking only right sides, though. I don't think that works on a road course. So after a long tow on the truck, Jack Mace also leaves the pit lane and the pit road here. 21st place. So a lot of perseverance from some of our drivers out here. There's 9.5 minutes on the tow hook for him. But he rejoins the race, rejoins the competition, and might well be able to get to the end on fuel from here. Who knows? I'm just wildly speculating, and from the fact that half our drivers didn't set qualifying times, a lot of them are driving out into the dark here as well in a race like this. You're driving into the unknown. It's mid-morning, early morning kind of time of day at the Nordshleife here, so they won't actually be driving into the dark. We'll, unlike the previous Reddit iRacing League schmozzles, we will not be driving around with no headlights in the dark. Carl Smith and Christopher Flamion still together, and Carl Smith with another interesting little HJ tribute livery there. I like it. I liked it a lot more before the right-hand side of the rear bumper was so far pushed in. I think Flamion's still carrying all of that damage that I was talking about earlier, so just, I think, comfortable to follow the lines of Smith in front, use him as a bit of a reference, see where he breaks, and that'll help Flamion stay on the circuit. Switch for position between Cody Fisher and Justin Hall in front of them as well. Didn't quite 100% see what happened, but Cody Fisher goes through and Justin Hall continues his cautious run. The car almost looks like it's crabbing a little bit for Jay Heasy, Justin Hall, but maybe he's just driving cautiously. He pushes out wide through the little carousel there, as many have done. That's a tough corner. Smith and Flamion going to approach it, and we'll see how gingerly, how tentatively they approach the corner. Smith stays on the better part of the banking, and I think so does Flamion for the most part. Flamion lights up the tires so hard out of there. Big wiggle that he was lucky to keep off the barriers. That cost him a little bit of time to Smith in front, and let's force it behind, catch up. Your leaders, Alex Albert and Mike Henry Jr., have just gone across to finish their third lap of the race. 5 more to go for them. Neither of them come into the pit lane, so they're not taking tyres and not in need of any repairs this time. But from third place, Franklin Gang, Nate Gang, your boy Nate Franklin comes into the pit lane, and I think he's going to get a tiny bit of repairs done. I imagine that car is going to go up on the jacks. Left side goes up, tyres on that side. Right side going to go up as well. Be interesting to see where this comes out in traffic, because not a bad idea. Get a bit of fuel, new set of tyres. That might give him some confidence, but he's going to come out behind Fisher and Hall, who were battling. It's not going to be easy for him to get through them. Franklin does slot in behind Fawcett and Flamion. Sorry, in front of Kyle Smith, Andrew Fawcett, and Christopher Flamion, who've Fawcett's got ahead of Flamion because Flamion's also come into the pit lane. So a couple of drivers taking that service, and of course Flamion, a lot of damage for him to fix. Going to be interesting, these new tyres for Nate Franklin, and he's come out, as I mentioned, behind this little battle of Cody Fisher and Justin Hall. I imagine he's going to catch them quite quickly, and he's a sort of predicament he's going to have to deal with is, where does he decide to get past them? So he pushes too hard to get past them quickly. He could definitely find himself needing to be back in that pit lane and getting a lot more body panels fixed than just a little tweak on the hood and a little dent in the bumper. over the crest at Schwedenkreuz. Another big wiggle for Nate Franklin, but he holds it together and he closes more time on Justin Hall in front. It's about 2 seconds, but that could close very, very quickly, especially a lot of corners coming up here, like through the Fuchsrohr, where there's a lot of bravery required to keep your foot planted. And you can hear from the throttle note, a lot of the drivers aren't. And up towards Adenauer Forst, you've really got to brake early, take late apexes, because if the track gets ahead of you and you start pushing wide, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And Fisher and Hall had some struggles up through there as well. It's let Franklin close up a lot. Importantly, it's let Hall close up a lot on Fisher again. Franklin's going to be looking forward at the battle between these two cars and hoping they don't tangle. Hall, I think, could have made a pass there and decided against it. He's now lost a bit of the momentum he had. Franklin comes up ever so close here. Oh, huge wiggle from Hall, and Franklin has to get all the way out of the throttle to not collect him. Franklin's going to want to get through sooner rather than later. Fresh tires for Franklin. They'll be, goodness, more than 30 miles newer. Through Miss, or the Dreifachrechts, as they are also known. Franklin doesn't close up much at all. Not an easy spot to pass down here either. What will he be thinking? Maybe after Lauder Links and towards Bergwerk, that could be a good place. A long, straight, heavy braking zone, probably the easiest place to get past in these cars. You really don't want to do it through anything too twisty in case the person you're trying to pass slides over into you. Fisher now massively holding up Hall. Franklin might get a good run up the hill. Big wiggle from Hall, and Franklin goes through with two wheels on the dirt, giving a little bit too much room. So one spot gained there from Franklin, but I think being put back into traffic has hurt his run a lot. He had a lot of clean air in third. Oh, off goes Fisher through Bergwerk into the wall, loses 2 spots to Franklin and Hall. So Franklin has gotten through those 2 drivers now, but I think being buried back into a little bit of traffic probably cost him a lot more time than the clean air he had up in 3rd place. We'll see when the likes of Ellison or Tonio Alvarez pit, if Franklin has lost time to those guys, or if he'll be able to gain a lot more on the back half of this lap. Now he's got new tyres on. With Fisher into the wall and Franklin going through, we've lost that little battle that we had. Fisher might just have the pace, though, to catch back up to Hall, regardless of the damage of the car going pretty squarely left-hand side into the wall. That might avoid too much suspension damage and make it mainly bodywork damage if you hit flat on rather than going one corner in first. Oh, Franklin pushes all the way up out wide, has to do the walk of shame around the outside of the carousel, couldn't keep it stuck down on the low line. That cost him a bit of time. Let's Hall behind, catch up a little bit. Fisher not having a good run. It's Franklin and Hall that are now the 2 closest cars on track for 5th, but Hall has been a lot more tentative than Franklin, who's pushing to try and build a gap until he pushed a little bit too hard, understeered hard through the carousel. And that won't be much fun. He'll be asking for his ride admission tickets back. Keeping an eye, currently the gap 10 seconds from Antonio Alvarez to Nate Franklin. And wondering how quickly Franklin can close up some of that gap. Antonio Alvarez driving mainly by himself. Car looks pretty clean. Most wheels pointing the right way for him in 4th place. 3 seconds behind Tom Ellison in 3rd place. And only drivers to have set clean lap times under 7 minutes. Still Alex Albert romping away to a 25-second lead up front. And Mike Henry Jr. running smoothly in 2nd place. Just as I say it, Albert is all 4 tyres on the grass through the Tiergarten, came in way too hot, and the leader is going to decide to jump into pit lane. So I think the car didn't stop, was a lot twitchier than he wanted coming into that tough, difficult braking zone from the highest speed section of the circuit. Maybe those tyres have cried enough. That's interesting. He's jumping into the pit lane, not to get any damage fixed. It doesn't look like. This is going to be fuel and tyres for the most part from your pole sitter and your man who's led every lap so far. Got 25 seconds clear of Mike Henry Jr. That's probably enough to get get out and away without any dramas. So 15 seconds. Mike Henry Jr. is going to take the lead ever so briefly. Albert didn't have enough of a gap for that pit stop. He's going to come out 1.5 seconds behind. They're now 1 second behind Mike Henry Jr. Gap Alvarez to Franklin's come down to just 9 seconds now. Down to 8 now, so that gap closing quickly as well. That'll be one to look at in the future, but right now I do want to see how quickly Alex Albert get past Mike Henry Jr. So Henry Jr. yet to pit. Albert with a new set of tyres underneath him, and 4 or so laps that set did, he decided was enough. Ellison pits from 3rd, Alvarez from 4th, so Franklin will probably get 3rd place back here. Swap for the lead though. Albert has no dramas getting by the number 92 car and back into the lead, and then gets plenty of air over Flugplatz for good measure. I think that move was made very, very easy by the number 92. Lots of cars on pit lane right now. Justin Hall, Tom Ellison, Tony Alvarez, Cody Fisher coming into the lane as well. So Franklin does cycle back through into the podium positions. Nate Gang, let us know if you're still watching. Romano stays out on this occasion, goes up into 6th place as Hall, Fisher, Smith, Fawcett comes into the lane now as well. Just past the halfway point in the race, and a lot of drivers deciding either they need fuel or that they're sick of the set of tyres they were on. New set of Goodyears is it that they use on these cars, I think? So Mike Henry Jr. now the only car yet to have been down onto the pit lane. Everyone else has done it at least once. Net Gang is still watching, and I appreciate that. So Alvarez and Ellison, I think Antonio Alvarez has come through the lane, and maybe I missed it, but he's taken a shorter service, I think, than Tom Ellison. So Tony has jumped up into 4th, but Ellison is right there behind him, and also with a new set of boots. Don't know if that was a difference on fueling, or if Antonio's decided to only take rear tires or something. But whatever it was, I'm pretty confident that those two have changed positions from where they were earlier. There was about a 3 or 4 second difference in them between the pit stops. Now Ellison behind Alvarez. So see what Tom can do to make a move. Big slide from Alvarez coming up the hill towards Adenauer Force to put him a little bit offline, and he's not looking confident on those tires at all. So I don't know if he's only taken fuel and no tires. But then Ellison runs wide onto the grass, can't put the power down, and that gives a little bit of breathing room to Antonio, who, if he'd watched the first Cars movie, would know that all gas, no tires is a horrible pit strategy for a racing car. So Lightning McQueen could have won the Piston Cup in his rookie year if he'd just listened to his crew chief and taken those 4 tyres. Rookie error there. Wide through the miss goes Alvarez. Not bothering to say hello to any of the apexes through there. It was miss for him, but he kept it on the black stuff and not on the grass. So could have been worse. He could have pushed out wider, but it did let Ellison close in and get a good look at that Doge facing rearwards. Wide goes Alvarez, through goes Ellison. So again, it comes unstuck this time eventually for Alvarez. I think he mainly kept that out of the wall, but he got in way too deep, popped up on top of the curb, had no traction there, and Ellison did not need a second invitation to take the late apex, put the nose to the inside and get the power down far more cleanly. He goes up into 4th place, Alvarez down into 5th. Per my timing screen, no cars separated by under a second out there on the circuit, but I can see that really our closest stuff is Cody Fisher, Chris Flamian, Justin Hall, and Kyle Smith from sort of 7th on down. All those guys did pit on the same lap. Flamian is going to close up a bit on Cody Fisher. It looks like Fisher might have some problems with Flamian, from what I see, is through for 7th place. but again, that's happened through Bergwerk. Fischer off wide through Bergwerk into the wall, and that must be 2 laps in a row. Flamien's car is a lot cleaner than it was last time I checked in with him, so he moves up into 7th, and I bet you there's some damage. Could be quite significant for Cody Fischer there. We'll see if he keeps up with Flamien or if Justin Hall behind is going to close up on the pair of them, because, I mean, Fischer's obviously going to have to be more cautious on the brakes if he's getting in too hot into too many of these corners. Coming up to another high-speed section of the circuit. Through the high-speed circuit, and Hall spins the rear wheels, taps the barrier, but mainly keeps it out for the most part. Carl Smith on through, Hall out of the slow hairpin and towards the carousel. Couldn't get the power down, and he should be on a fresh set of tyres. I'm seeing a 30-second pit stop for him last time by, and he's on an outlap, so I can't see how that wouldn't be a new set of tyres. But they're not working this time for Hall. Smith goes through because he never lifts. And he's a couple seconds behind Fischer and Flamien, the 2 closest cars on the road right now. Fischer trying to recover from his issue at Bergwerk. So on this lap alone, as they come around again, Alex Albert built out a 15-second gap over Mike Henry Jr. that he passed in the exit of the Hatzenbach. The exit of the Hatzenbach. So Alex Albert flying along those old tyres there for Mike Henry Jr. Not really working out so well for him. I expect him onto the lane this time. We'll see. Certainly, he might almost be running out of fuel in that thing. He's got 1 more corner to go before the pit entry for the number 92 car, currently running in 2nd place, and he stays out again. The timing I'm seeing says 3 more laps to go. So I don't see how he'd have more than another lap of fuel in that thing. He does a 7 minute 6 seconds crossing the line this time. If Franklin can pull out a good lap, he might be able to undercut Mike Henry Jr., especially if the tyres continue to drop away for the number 92 car. I'm not just hyping this up for the purposes of Nate gang. I think Franklin, after making his way through their traffic, it's a pretty good strategy to try and cut the race in half and take tyres at about the midway point. He'll have a lot more grip and hopefully a lot more confidence than the 2nd place car right now. Gap between them about 40 seconds. So if Nate finds 5 or 10 seconds on this lap, and he puts in his fastest lap of the race, a 6 minute 58. So it's about 10 seconds faster than Mike Henry Jr. that lap around. If he makes it another 10 seconds on this lap, he'll definitely be within range of getting past Henry Jr. when he jumps into the pits, or at least having an opportunity to strike later in the race. So we might give the people what they want and definitely not jinx him. Let's start right on board with Nate Franklin for just a couple of minutes. So there we go. It gives you a good appreciation of the circuit from the view of Nate Franklin. A little bit of a battle over 10th and 11th. Fawcett and Hall together on track there. And you're going to be side by side right now because Fawcett's in the grass on the way to... I knew the name of that corner. There's something down there. Fawcett off there and Hall through, but I think Fawcett might well recover from that one. Not too much damage from what I can see on his car. So Hall goes through into the top 10. Fawcett has some dramas coming into the braking zones a little too hot. Oh, and now both of them run up very, very high through that corner, which is where we saw Antonio Alvarez run off wide and let Tom Ellison get through. Obviously, guys struggling with big understeer through there. It's a tough corner descending downhill, and then the left comes up really quick on you there. Through Bergwerk Hall, a little wide. Fawcett gets the apex well, gets the power down well until the about deeper in the rev range. The power band comes on a bit too strong for him, I think. Long run up the hill after the little left-hander at Klostertal, where these guys clearly have to lift out a little bit. You get a good run all the way up the hill here. You definitely gain a bit of time, but Fawcett not close enough this time, and the car wiggling big time for him. What's his tires like? Only a lap and a half old. He's just struggling to get the power down smoothly. Hall, deep, big locked brake, and he's on into the grass, into the tires, force it through into the top 10. Hall just didn't get that thing stopped hard enough for the hairpin. They come towards the carousel this time. Hall is right behind. Didn't put put too much damage on the car, but he definitely lost enough time doing that that it dropped him out of the top 10 once again. Hall back into 11th, Fawcett up into 10th. Little update here. Alex Albert going across the start-finish line now with 8 minutes, 10 seconds remaining. That means we're going to have 2 more laps because he's doing about 7-minute laps. If he'd been a bit slower, this race might have gone to 1 less lap, but there's going to be 2 more times around. And I wonder if everyone has enough fuel for that. We'll definitely see. Mike Henry Jr., what is he going to do? Surely the pit lane will be calling his name this time. But 30 seconds is about the lead he had over Nate Franklin, and indeed in pit lane comes Mike Henry Jr. It'll be close when they come out. Could be pretty close together for second and third. Franklin, of course, though, now 3 laps onto his tyres. If he gets out ahead, it'll be a tough job to defend. And if he doesn't, Mike Henry Jr., who takes fuel only, no tyres. Wow, big call for the track position there from Mike Henry Jr. Splash of fuel only to get him 2 more laps around. And he'll then come out 15 seconds ahead of Nate Franklin. But the tyres have done a lot of laps. 6 laps on Mike Henry Jr.'s car. This is going to be interesting for second and third. I'm definitely going to watch that in the 2 laps still to come. Justin Hall's gone and lost another spot. I know Cody Fisher's lost a spot back down into 10th. Fawcett is through, and now Hall going to try and have a look at Fisher from what I can see on my timing screen. Oh, Fisher's off again. He's lost that spot. Last time around, Fisher was ahead of Smith and Fawcett, but he's lost out to 3 cars so far this lap, and that car not looking healthy at all for Cody Fisher. Might take a replay. See what has gone on this lap for Cody Fisher. I'm having a look back. Corner up the hill after Kleiner's carousels where he's gone off and let Hall through, but there must have been a bigger issue earlier than that. He's grazed the barrier in a few places. It's through Flansgarten. He's hit the curb hard and then hit the wall hard. bit of oversteer, turns the car in towards the curb. He puts the right side tires up in the air. The tires spin up, and when he lands, he goes all the way around, hits the wall hard, and then that car does not want to turn to the right, which he then discovered in the next corner, where he slid all the way around the wall, lost a couple more positions. So issues for Fisher. Justin Hall in the pits to get some service done, and that is just a splash of fuel only for Hall in his second pit stop. So maybe he's been caught out and needed more fuel to get to the end. Cody Fisher also takes just the fast repair and the fuel. It's been one more lap next time around. It'll be 2 more laps for these guys. White flag next time Alex Albert comes around at the start-finish line. So survival, perseverance have been absolutely key in this race. Your man up the front in the 33 car is Alex Albert, 50 seconds ahead of Mike Henry Jr. now. And with a fresher set of tyres than him to boot, he's continuing to extend that lead. He might take the win here by more than a minute if this keeps up at this pace. He comes down towards the corner before Carousel, sort of the end of the long run up the hill towards the highest section on the circuit. Into the Carousel he goes for what's going to be his penultimate time. Takes a good line there, keeps it stuck down on the inside of the banking, pushes up a little bit early. That compromises his speed off the exit, but no harm done. And of course, he'll get away with that. There is shaping up, though, an exciting battle over second place because Mike Henry Jr., as we said, no tyres, now only 15 seconds ahead of Nate Franklin, who's closing him up. But 4 seconds behind that, Tom Ellison has gotten into his groove and is flying along and will definitely close up on Franklin, who's closing up on Mike Henry Jr. That will be very, very interesting in the closing stages of this race. Oh, just as I say that and I cut to Tom Ellison myself, he has 2 tyres in the grass. That's how hard he's pushing. That was the exit of Mut Curve. I think he's gone on a bit too deep and then a little deep, but keeps it on the black stuff in the corner after that. Taking no prisoners right now. Tom Ellison pushing for all of the grip he's got, and he's got tyres that are a lap newer than Franklin in front. Franklin, as we know, was one of the first drivers to jump in for a regular stop. So the gaps then stay pretty similar. Still 4 seconds, Franklin to Ellison in the battle over third place. And this battle does continue to catch second. Little Mermaid car had a strong run through Vipperman and now it's coming down the hill. It's down to 3 seconds to Nate Franklin in front, who we can definitely see entering some of the corners in front of him within viewing distance, and that might give him some confidence and show him exactly what he's going to be battling for potentially on the final lap. 2 minutes left on the play clock. White flag will be out when Alex Albert crosses the line. This time around, he's just a couple corners away from doing that. Or is he? He's got picked up a lot of damage on this lap and lost about 10 seconds of the lead that he had. I'm going backwards to see where Alex Albert has had an issue on this lap. His lead is enough. Whoa, big run through the air. And it was, I don't know the name of that corner, but in the meantime, Franklin has lost out to Ellison. Which replay are we watching? Yeah, so Albert ridden a little bit too much curb through the high-speed section there, and it sent him up and into the air. He's in the pit lane right now. He sees the white flag as he enters pit road to get that car fixed. I imagine he'll take just the fast repair, and it's a very quick stop for him there. 1 second. He'll get back out with a 34-second lead in a clean car. That could have ended so much worse for him. Can't get cocky. I need to take a look back because I haven't seen where Thomas Ellison went through on Nate Franklin for third place. F's in chat, Nate gang. Your boy out of the podium positions, unfortunately. This was going on a minute or so ago, and you know what? It's the same corner that Alex Albert had issues. Franklin gets the same curb, hits the same wall, doesn't do any flips, less damage on the car. He carries on, but it cost him 10 seconds or so. So that corner, obviously very, very treacherous at this stage in the race. It's blind, it's fast, and the hill absolutely drops away from you. The car gets so light over the crest, you've got no traction there. You're especially in a car like this with no downforce, or very, very little downforce, you're basically a bit of a spaceship there. So down the Nottingham, Kyle Smith, Andrew Fawcett battling over 8th and 9th. Fawcett just not close enough there, didn't pick up much of a toe, and he has to lift out of the throttle very, very early coming towards Tiergarten. I wonder if there's fuel concerns for Andrew Fawcett. He is coasting it into all of the corners. He's going to see the white flag this time. Doesn't enter the pit lane, but he's definitely, I think, trying to look after his fuel. Someone's leaving the pit lane there. Zach Price, I think, exiting the lane behind them some laps down. I think it was the Corn Hub livery, was it? Yes, it was. I wonder what the sections are on that website. So up front still, Alex Albert repaired his car, and I'm sure will be driving this lap far more tentatively than his last one. He has a comfortable 22-second gap if he doesn't leave the circuit, if he doesn't put it in the wall anywhere. Mike Henry Jr. is definitely losing quite some time to Tom Ellison. Last lap for Tom Ellison, a 6:57. The last lap for Mike Henry Jr., a 7:18. On that form, Ellison is 21 seconds per lap faster, and the gap right now is 13 seconds halfway around the lap. Ellison could do it, and you know what? Last time around, he put enough pressure on to force a mistake out of Nate Franklin. I'm sure he could do the same thing to Mike Henry Jr., whose tires have been on since the start of the race. Goodness, approaching an hour ago. 55 minutes ago, I think, if I'm reading my timing right. So the tyres are not going to be getting any better for Mike Henry Jr. They might start to absolutely drop away. Ellison's tyres 3.5 laps old. Some of the fresher in the field, certainly fresher than Nate Franklin. So Ellison a chance at second place. Got my eyes now on Mike Henry Jr. because I need to see how hard those tyres are struggling. Only 11 seconds ahead of Tom Ellison now, and that gap coming down. Surely the rear tyres will have been spun up enough times, worn down, heated up enough that sooner or later they'll cry enough. He comes towards Bravery Curve. This is one where we've seen people not slow the car down enough, and push out a little bit too wide, get on the grass, and then find the barrier. Henry Jr. gives lots of respect to that barrier, that wall, but his gap over Ellison now only 8 seconds. Ellison is charging along and will surely be able to see the car in front at some point soon. He'll know that the timing gap is coming down. He'll know that there's a chance. Henry into the carousel. Very, very slow, but takes the correct line and gets a good exit. That's important. He's not getting ahead of himself, but he's certainly not as aggressive as Tom Ellison is. That gap's still 8 seconds, so the section of circuit here that's very, very twisty through Wipperman and towards Brunchen and these curves is going to be so important for Tom Ellison. He needs a mistake out of Mike Henry Jr. if he's going to switch those two positions on the final lap here. Very wide, very tentative. Mike Henry Jr. lifts all the way out of the throttle, the way down and towards Brunchen. Gap 6-7 seconds or so. Closing, but maybe not quite fast enough. Carl Smith and Andrew Fawcett battling over 8th and 9th. Fawcett's right there. Kyle has a big slide coming down the hill, but so does Fawcett, who I'm hearing a lot of lift and coast still out of that. Number 94, Kyle Smith, huge slide into the barrier. Fawcett, no such dramas, takes the position away. Up into 8th place for Andrew Fawcett. So the pressure gets too much for Neville Lift Smith, and he had a big four-wheel drift towards the barrier. Not too much contact. He'll carry on. It's not the end of his day, but it is the end of his tenure in 8th position. Gap down to 6.1 seconds between Henry Jr. and Tom Ellison, but they're through most of the twisty bits. I think Ellison's run is over. Ellison hard into the wall, pushing too hard. Where's that? That looks like the exit of the little carousel. So the Little Mermaid through the little carousel is too ambitious. And what happens here is it just down on the center curb. Car gets a little bit out of shape on the exit. It wasn't even too hard on the throttle. He's beached it too, I think. So the Little Mermaid on the beach. That's a surprise. So pushing hard on the final lap to trying to grab second place. Nate Gang, your boy, back up into third place. Giovanni Romano comes through. Antonio Alvarez has had some dramas on the final lap as well. What's happened to my favorite Colombian? I think he's been generous and tried to unstick Tom Ellison, and it hasn't worked. So Colombian to the rescue, gets the Doge car against Tom Ellison, pushes hard, and it's not enough to get the Little Mermaid or the whale unbeached. Very sporting from Antonio, but nothing he could do for Tom Ellison, who is stuck still heavy in the Armco barrier. Romano through into 4th. Alvarez continues on in 5th. Christopher Flamion's going to come through in 6th, but your boy Alex Albert has already crossed the line and he's burning him down. Henry Jr. got 2nd because he managed to avoid the mistake that befell Ellison. Nate Franklin gets 3rd position. Romano across the line, Alvarez across the line. Christopher Flamion, I think, has crossed the line. No, he is not. What has gone on for him? I don't know. He's dropping down the timing order. So is Tom Ellison. So Alvarez crosses the line in 5th. Fawcett across the line in 6th. Smith gets 7th when he started that lap. Well, he was running in 9th on that lap for a brief moment. Might have to look back and see what has gone on to Christopher Flamion. Oh, exit of the little carousel as well for Flamion, and then he lights up the throttle too hard, gets the barrier, gets thrown into space, and ends up on his roof. So on the last lap, dramas for quite a few people, including Christopher Flamion and Thomas Ellison, who started the final lap, and neither of them are going to see the checkered flag, unfortunately. Still got a couple more drivers to come across the line, like Cody Fisher, Justin Hall, Hunter Reeve, Ryan Verholst, Alex Coffard, John Patrick, Justin Lehman's all out there from what I can see as well. So a long lap like this means that a lot of cars remain on the lead lap, even though they are quite some minutes down. I'm looking at Ryan Verholst, and I think it's Alex Coffard there who might be battling it out. Coffard, appears to be on the same lap as Ryan Verhulst, the two of them battling, coming towards Bravery Curve, so about halfway around the lap. Damage on both of these guys. Verhulst on the brakes quite earlier than Coffard through Bravery Curve, but then gets the throttle down well on the exit. So these guys, I think, are still racing. Justin Hall comes across the line. Hunter Reeves going to come across the line in a minute or so's time. Whoa! Big for Ryan Verhulst. He pushes out of the little carousel. They're side by... Sorry, the big carousel. The main carousel. The carousel. They're side by side on the exit, but Verhulst somehow gets the power down better than Alex Coffard, who remains just half a car length behind the rear spoiler coming up the hill towards Hoa Acht, the highest section of the circuit. Taking a later apex. They nearly touch. They almost do. Coffard, I think, gives him a tiny bump, but doesn't want to take the spot that way. Or does he? The two collide. Verhulst into the barrier. Coffard gets collected by him as well. Both of them get going again. Coffard loses a spot there. John Patrick comes through on the both of them. So drama, 13th, 14th, and 15th on the final lap still. Yeah, huge damage for Verhulst. So he actually loses out to Shane Cameron and Justin Lamons as well. So from about 13th or so, back into 17th place goes Ryan Verhulst. Though he will gain 2 back on his way to the line because Flamion and Ellison, who started this lap ahead, are not going to see the checkered flag. So Hunter Reeve comes across the line, and that'll net him 9th place. John Patrick's going to come through soon as well. And then Alex Coffard. Shane Cameron and Justin Lamb is a little bit further around the lap. Coffard is parked and blocking Shane Cameron. The two collide on the exit of Galgenkopf. They're going to be side by side down the Dottingerhohe. Coffard into the rear quarter of Shane Cameron. Big slide. Cameron into the wall. It's a good thing that I know these two guys are friends. Otherwise, that'd be quite nasty. Who slides through there? I think that's Justin Lamons. Grabs a spot off both of these fools. And so I think there's just a little bit of a party on the final lap on the Dottingerhohe. Lamons checks it up as well to join the show. Cameron side by side with Lamons. Coffard approaching. I think it's about time to wrap the show up. And I think that's what we're getting from these three guys who are going to come towards the checkered flag together. Coffard puts another little bump on Cameron. Coffard all the way out on the grass as they come towards the braking zone of Tiergarten. There'll be three to cross the line together. Alex, we're just watching the last couple of cars come across the line. Congratulations on your win there.
Hey, thanks.
A bit of drama for you with 2 laps to go there. Was there a point there where you thought you had maybe lost that win?
Yeah, for sure. That crash that I had near Flatsgarden, I was very thankful that I'd built up a big enough lead that I was able to limp it around and get the car repaired.
Pretty lucky that it ended up on its wheels again as well, I think, because if you'd needed to use the tow truck, that loses you a lot of time around a big lap like this, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, for sure. If it wouldn't have landed back on its wheels, it would have been day over. So that's racing, you know. Sometimes it works out.
I think this was your selection to run this car on the Nordschleife. What did you end up thinking of the combination? It looked quite interesting from a spectator perspective.
It was very challenging. That's one of the reasons I asked them to include as many fast repairs as possible, because it was just super challenging out there. If you put one wheel wrong, it was easy to end up in the barriers, as you probably saw multiple times. So very challenging, but a lot of fun. I love the Nordschleife, and a car with this much power is a beautiful combination.
You've taken the win here in the final round. I haven't had time to crunch the numbers. What's your reading of the season 26 championship situation?
Well, after the race, I was talking to Giovanni down in the paddock and congratulated him on what I thought would be another championship for him. He said that he thought that maybe I had scored enough points. So I guess we'll see once the mods do the math and tally up the points where it all shakes out. But either way, I want to congratulate Gio for another strong season. He's a great competitor and makes, keeps me on my toes every week.
Yeah, well, regardless of the outcome, congratulations on running a pretty decent season, and to just be in contention at the final race means that you've probably run a pretty good season.
Yeah, I've had some more wins this season, so that's always good. It's really been checkers or wreckers this season. Lots of wins, but then lots of bad finishes too. So just not the kind of consistency that I would like to see in a championship run. But if we get enough points, we get enough points.
I guess last thing I'm kind of curious about, what did you think about the tire life here? How did they wear down on a road course like this? Because Mike Henry Jr. Took no tires the whole race, and that didn't. I think he was alone in doing that. Almost everyone else decided a new set of tires was a good thing to do.
Yeah, the tires definitely did fall off some, but they didn't give up a ton of speed. It was just more, they slid more. You didn't have the as much precision, but you could still get 98% of the speed out of it. So I think we could have ran the whole race on a set of tires, but as quick as they can change them, it was just kind of a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, you certainly had the gap. Congratulations on your win here, Alex. Good chatting with you, and enjoy the rest of your night.
Yeah, thanks. And I just want to give a special shout out to Andrew Fawcett. Thanks for the special paint job for this week. I really appreciate it.
But there we go. I really wanted to find Nate Franklin, but I can't see him kicking around the paddock. So we might wrap this show up. Thanks so much for tuning in to our coverage here on HJBC of the Reddit iRacing League. What a fantastic little race. This was full of surprises. Our finishing order was Alex Albert, Mike Henry Jr., Nate Franklin for the podium. I was David Haynes. Our producer was Michael Derby. And please subscribe, and we'll catch you soon.